Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing good. This video will be on the software configurations that we will be doing in SAP related to the production planning module. So this video will be on the configuration steps that we have to perform in sequence in order to activate a production setup for any plant. So in this slide, we'll be discussing about the sequential steps that we have to follow while performing the configuration for the shop floor parameters or the production setup. So it first starts with the creation of the order types. So this object, it may mainly discuss about the type of the production order or the process order that we have to configure in the plant. So depending on the usage of the order, we can basically create multiple production order or the process order types. So for example, if we have a standard commercial product manufacturing process, so there we can use the standard production order types such as PP01 or PI01. And similarly, for any rework activity, it can also have a different order type. And next we have order type dependent parameters, which can be navigated through SPRO or directly by using the transaction OPL8. So the order type dependent parameters are basically with the combination of the order type and the plant. So you can actually create the production order type, for example, as PP01, and the same order type can be used in multiple plants. But each of those plans might have different requirements, and that can be configured or can be made as unique based on the plant and the order type combination under this order type dependent parameters. So in this configuration under OPL8, we can basically define what is the status profile that we have to use and how is the selection of the BOM and routing done and so on. So we'll get into those details when we navigate into the SAP screens. So the third one is to define the number ranges for these orders. So in the first step, since we have created the order types, so we also can assign a specific number range for each of the order types that we have created here. So let's say the PP01 or the standard production order types can have the number range starting with a 7 series, right? And similarly for any rework order, I would like to assign the number range starting with 9 series. So such kind of functionalities can be made possible by creating a number range for each of these order types. So once we create a number range, so the number range object can be assigned into the order type here. After that, we have the production scheduling profile. So this basically helps us, to default any production order types or any rework order types based on the scenario, like a make to stock or a make to order or a rework scenario. So what should be the order type that should be automatically selected by the system at the time of converting the planned orders into the process orders or the production orders? And also we can assign like how the batches should be determined while creating the order or while releasing the order and so on. After that, in the shop floor, we basically have the production supervisors, right? So each of those production supervisor can have a unique code identifying the person. So that can be configured here in OPJ9 by assigning a 3-digit code to him. It can be an alphanumeric, and it can have a specific description of the production supervisor with his name itself. And we assign the production supervisor along with the production scheduling profile, and we can default them into the material master. So whenever we create a production order for that particular code, so based on the combinations that we maintain in the material master, so those parameters will be defaulted into the production orders. And after that, in OPJK, we basically have the checking control. So this basically controls like in case there are any missing parts, for example, while creating the production order. So should the order be released, or it should be just placed in the created status? Or should the user have the flexibility to release the order though we have a missing parts of the components? I mean to say the shortage of the components at the time of creating the order. So those kind of controls can be made possible in the checking control configuration. And after that, we have the scheduling parameters for the production orders. So we can use OPU3. This basically helps us, to schedule the production order. Should it be in the backward scheduling, or should it be in the forward scheduling, or on the current date? So once we assign the default values in the configuration, so automatically those scheduling parameters will be copied into the production orders when we create them. And then we have the confirmation parameters in OPK4. This basically provides a kind of a default values while posting a confirmation onto the production orders. So should it be a partial confirmation, or should it be a final confirmation every time the user logs into the CU11 transaction or the confirmation screen? And also we can specify a few more default functions, such as to propose the time and the quantity details as soon as the production order has been entered into the confirmation screen. And then we have the default values for generation of operations, so which can be done directly in OPJG transaction. So this basically helps us in generating the operations for the rework activities. So since the rework order is not going to have any material master reference in it, but because we are actually performing the rework activity on the finished product, right? Or it can be a semi-finished or any rejected part. So that will not have a specific routing or bill of material, but can be maintained while creating the rework order type. So basically the rework order will not have the material in the header, but we can assign a set of operations, something like dismantling the product and to perform some rework activities. And also we can assign the finished product or the semi-finished itself as part of the components, along with few more parts as we need to perform the rework. So let me navigate through SPRO instead of using the transaction codes. So this would actually help you to understand where the path actually exists in the SPRO. So here in the SPRO, we have the production node, as you can see here, right? So this is basically for the discrete manufacturing process, and the production planning for process industry is basically for the process manufacturing configuration setup. So let me take an example on the discrete manufacturing part. So under the production, we have the basic data. And under the basic data, we can see several activities or subnodes for the bill of material, work centers, routings, execution steps, and so on. So the configurations related to this will basically lie under uh, the bill of material. So if you'd like to create a kind of a specific control data for the bill of materials, so that can be created over here by defining the default values or or modifying the parameters in the bill of material. So let's go into the shop floor parameters, where you can see here. So when we open the shop floor configuration node here, there we have a sub node for the master data. So this is not any master data that we talked so far. So this master data is related to the shop floor control. So if I open it, I do see the first node, which talks about the order. So now the first one is to define the order types. So when I click on this, I can open any of these order types. So here in the order type is basically PP01, which is a standard production order, and you can edit the text whatever you need here. And if you look at the order category, it basically shows as 10. So 10 basically stands for the production orders, And the order category 40 stands for the process orders. And by looking at the order category itself, we also can say that whether it is a production order or a process order. So once we define the production order types here, we can assign the number ranges over here. So once I click on this icon, so system is going to navigate me into the number range groups that are already created, or if you have created any new group, that will also be displayed in the screen. So for example, here the number range interval 01, it basically talks about the process orders with the number range as 6 until 64999, right? So the order types that are basically using the 01 interval group will be created with this particular number range sequence. So this is the starting number, and this would be the ending number. So the production order numbers will be created in between this particular range. So while creating the production order type, it is not mandatory that you can actually have the number range created before this. So we can actually create the production order type, and we can go to the number range later, and then again come back to the production order types and assign it over here. And here we have the status management. It is basically for the status profile header and the operations status profile. So these status profiles, it basically helps us, to define the user status in case you have anything specified for this order type. So what should be the user status that we have already configured in the BS 0203 transactions. So here in the BS02, if I look for this particular status profile, PP all zeros 1, and if I go into the details of this, so here I have assigned the user status as these 6 statuses, right? So these are not anything that is mandatory, but in case the business requirement is going to demand for a status profile, so that can be created here in BS02 or BS01. And similarly for the operation status as well. So once we have completed the production order type, we then go into the order type dependent parameters. So if I go into the order type dependent parameters, like I said, this is basically based on the plant and the order type combination, right? So if I open the details of this, or let me choose the PP01. So here I can actually configure all these settings based on the plant and the order type combinations. So here, coming to the production version, how the production version should be selected into the production orders, or while converting the planned orders into a production order. So should it be manually, or should it be automatically based on the selection parameters that we have in the production versions? So if you need more details on the production versions, please do watch my previous video on the PP master data that talks about the production version parameters. And then we have the routing related data. So should it be a standard routing, or should it be rate routing that should be part of the production orders? So these are the task list type we have available here, and that can be assigned into this order type. And then how should the operations be incremented? I mean to say the number range for that. So should it be in the sequence of or an increment of 10 numbers, or should it be with an increment of 1? In case you would like to have the operation numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, so then you can assign the number increment as 1. So for now, I'm going to leave it as 10. And next comes the BOM application. So for this production order type, I'm going to use the PP01, which is the standard BOM application. And in case the production order needs a batch determination to be done while creating or releasing the order, so then we can assign the search a procedure for that particular setup that we have done for the batch procedure. So we'll discuss in more detail about this search procedure, but because it's going to be a kind of a big concept. And then we have the creation of the purchase requisition. So this is basically needful when we create the production orders with the operations for the external, I'm going to say the outsourcing part. So in case out of your 5 operations, you have to send your third operation into the external processing or to any subcontractor. So how the purchase requisitions should be created while releasing the production order. So this setting will actually control the creation of purchase requisition for the operation outsourcing. And then into the implementation tab, we can see how to create the change documents for the order header and for the operation, for the material and so on. And these change documents are will not actually track everything about the production order changes, but it will only track the status changes. As you can see here, it's only related to the status. I mean to say, when was this order created and when this production order has been released. I mean to say, the status has been changed from created to release. And in the same way, when this production order has been confirmed or partially confirmed, so whenever there is a change in the status of the production order, so that will be tracked at the header level. And then with the documentation of the goods movement under the production orders, so should it be tracked into the system or not? So if I'm going to activate these check boxes here, it means that the goods receipt of the production orders are going to be tracked in the production order itself, right? So if you don't see any uh, documented goods movements when you open any production order where the goods movements are already posted, so you can first come back to this configuration and see whether the checkbox has been activated here or not, right? And then with the costing part, so these are basically the setup that will be done by the costing department, where they can assign the planned variance and the actual variance along with the result analysis key and so on. So that's about the order time dependent parameters. And then we have the number ranges like we discussed earlier. So here is where we actually create the number ranges for any number range interval. So all these are the intervals like 01, 02, 03, 04. These are basically the interval groups where you can assign the particular number range sequence for this particular group. So here, if we look at the group 01, we can see that the order number starts from 6, 0, 01 and so on uh, until 64999. So now the number range status, it basically tells us that this is the current number range status of this particular number range group. So it means that the existing production order that is using the group 01 is having the number as 5664, right? So this is uh, the current number range of the production order or the last production order number that has been created under this group. And similarly, you also can create or define the number ranges for the confirmations, reservations, operations, and so on. So if I minimize this, I can see the production scheduling profile over here. So let me open that and let me choose a plant. So now in the production scheduling profile, so this is going to be a code, an alphanumeric code that will be under the assignment of the plant, wherein which we can create we can set up the default activities that the system should perform while creating or releasing the production order. So here we have two setups. One is on the creation and the other one is on the release. So while releasing the production order, so what all activities should actually take place? So if you would like to print the production order or the shop floor papers upon releasing the order, so then you can just activate this checkbox. And if you would like to rerun the scheduling part on the production order, so then the schedule order checkbox can be activated. And similarly, while creating the production order, if you would like to release the order instantly at the time of creation itself, right? So then this particular checkbox can be activated. And now below we can see the material availability check, wherein which we can activate this checkbox to confirm the uh, partial available quantities on the components. And if you like to have an auto GR, basically whenever you post the confirmation on the production order, should the finished product be automatically placed into the finished storage location or pushed into the quarantine location. So if you're going to enable this checkbox with the automatic goods receipt, we can actually exclude the step of executing MIGO for the goods receipt. So whenever we post a confirmation on this production order, so the goods receipt will also happen in the background. And the most important part that we have here, if we are using a batch management, is the automatic creation of the batches in the production order. So should it be at the time of creating the order or while releasing the order? So whenever we have the batch management active, right, for any finished product, so there we have the option whether uh, to create the batch automatically by the system itself at the time of creation, or should it be at the time of releasing the order, right? And then with the batch classification. So here, this batch classification is basically based on the class and characteristic values that we are going to assign into the product master. And it basically helps us, to execute the batch classification. It should in the foreground or it should be in the background. So if the classification is carried out in the background, so that is not actually shown to the user, right? And if we are going to choose this functionality to be in the foreground, so whatever characteristics have been made as mandatory, so those would be shown to the user first, and upon his consent, those classification would be finalized into the specific batch. And after that, if the production process has been integrated with the warehouse management, so then we can actually use these functions, whether to create the transfer order upon creating the order or while releasing the order, or have the TR, I mean to say the transfer request should be created while handling those production orders. So this option, it basically tells us while the transfer of requirements and the transfer order should be, or the TRTO should be created based on the release activity on the production order, or the creation of the transfer requirements should only take place while I release the order. Right. So these kind of settings, I mean, between the WM and the PP module can be enabled over here. And now, if you like to default the production order types based on the scenario, so let's say if we are into the make to stock scenario for the product, so then what should be the order type that should be defaulted by the system? And similarly, in case of a make to order production, what should be the production order type that should be as default? And without material, it is basically something a kind of a rework activity, which is generally used to perform some activities in order to refurbish or dismantle any product or part. And then in case of an project management systems where the production process has been mapped with the WBS or the project system, we will have a different order type created for that scenario as well. So that's about the production scheduling profile. And then with the production supervisor code, like I said, we can create the alphanumeric code for each of the plant, and which can be assigned to the production scheduling profile as well. Right. And then we have the availability check where we can perform the checking control. So let me open one of this. Yeah. So this configuration is basically to check the availability while creating the production order. So during the creation part, so should the material availability be done? I mean to say for the components. So should the system actually read the stock situations or the availability of those components based on the bill of material quantities and so on. So if I mark it as no check, it means that the material availability is not to be checked while creating the order. And what is the checking rule that we can actually use while creating, I mean, for this particular production order type in this plant? And similarly, the same things can be enabled at the PRT level, so which is a production resource tool that we actually assign into the routing or the operations of the order. And similarly for the availability of the capacity on the machines. So now here on the collective conversion, so here we have the control which can be managed by the user. So here if I'm going to use the option one, which means that the user can actually create the, I mean, he can actually decide whether to save that particular production order or to create it, even though the components are missing. I mean to say there is no sufficient stock of the components. So he can say whether to create or save the production order, or he do not want the order to be created itself. And if I use the option 2, which means that the order will be created despite of the stock availability of the components. And if it is the 3 option or the third option, so if there is a missing part or there is no sufficient stock of the components, so then the order cannot be created at all. So this particular parameter has been made available at the material availability, I mean to say for the component check, for the production resource tools, and also for the capacity availability. So each of these 3 categories can have the codes or the functions that can actually tell whether to create the order or not. So this is for the availability check while creating the order. Similarly, we have the availability check while releasing the order. So while I release the production order, what functionalities does the user have here? So coming to the material availability, in case there are any missing components, so should it be released at all, or should I block the release of the production order even though there is no sufficient stock? So here, if I would like to give it up to the user, whether he would like to approve the creation or the release of the production order, though there is no enough stock, so then I'm going to use this function, this particular key uh, to control the release of the production orders, right? So now going back to the scheduling, yeah. Here in the scheduling parameters, we can basically define what kind of the scheduling type should the production order always have as default. So while we convert the planned order into production order, so always the scheduling type backwards will be copied into the production order. If I'm going to use the forward scheduling here, so always the forward scheduling will happen for the production order. So here, as you see that the order type has not been specifically mentioned and we have the star, which means that any order that we create in this particular plant can have all these parameters as default into the production orders. And down below, we have the configurations related to the reductions of the operation whenever there is, a bottleneck. So these will be the default parameters the order type can have. So that's all for today, guys. Hope you have liked the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. We'll meet again soon in our next video. Until then, take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye.